We begin with a look back. Coco Gauff joins the #1 seed, Iga Swiatek, in a big upset this weekend as Emma Navarro, the young upstart from America, she too is very young, just 23, takes out Gauff 6-4, 6-3 in an hour and 14 minutes. Uncharacteristically very emotional Coco Gauff. She's back on the court, though, today in doubles with Jess Pegula as play rolls on. Hi, everyone. Chris McEnroe once again back on ESPN with Brad Gilbert, Coco Gauff's coach. Chrissy Evert and John McEnroe join me.
Postmortem time, Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah, a little disheveled last night and this morning, but I'm okay now. You know, you guys brighten up the day. We could play a little mixed doubles here.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Yeah. Let's go back
Now
to the match.
let's get to the match.
Let's get to the match.
Give us the real feeling.
Chrissy was also calling the match, so she was in the bunker just below your box as everybody watched this roll on. Pick it up in the first set, Brad. Coco Gauff is serving at 3-2.
Well, first, the conditions were really slow, and I felt like the tactics were good. We thought that she could attack her forehand, and this was one of those points where, Emma, who moved very well on grass, and she did a great job once the points got extended past 10 shots. And she got the same pattern over and over again, which really hurt us in the ultimate, how the match ended up.
Doesn't she win most of those long rallies against almost anybody?
She normally does a great job of winning these long rallies.
Navarro.
She lost a ton of these forehand-to-forehand exchanges.
We felt bad for you, Brad, because she clearly was unraveling out there, and she really lost her cool. And I mean, my thought was she's so emotional that she's lost her train of thought. And, for a player that's already won a slam, she's 20 years old, she should have a better self-awareness of her game when things are not going right, what to do, a B plan. And that's what I was, surprised about, is that she just couldn't figure it out herself. She was relying maybe too much on you guys.
Sometimes, players can be a little stubborn. You're out on the court. Sometimes you don't see things as clearly as somebody that's, all of a sudden I'm looking back, I'm thinking stats in my head and stuff. But full credit to Emma. She played a great match, and I watched her out here, and she was missing forehands all over the place. It was not the
Played a perfect match. Human backboard out there.
And she closed out the match with very little emotion, as we've come to expect her demeanor, with just that slight fist bump on match point, her second match point. Brad, take us inside the point for the key points that changed the match.
Actually, believe it or not, I thought in the first game of the match, 30-all, this was a really good opportunity for Coco to get an early lead, get a break point right here. Emma goes for a drop shot right here. Coco has plenty of time to hit this, and for some reason decided to chip it. And, that helped her get on board. Coco just got a break. This is the first point after a break. She comes in, makes a good athletic stab here, holds her ground, and then this one right here, all of a sudden she has whole court. That ended up leading to a break.
You're being tough on her there.
This one right here I felt like was a huge opportunity. 3-all, 15-40. This is the one maybe she should have taken in the air. The point reset, got back into the forehand and forehand exchange, and then ended up not breaking. I thought that those two games gave Emma a lot of confidence in the first set.
It looked to me like, you're laying out a scenario where she should have won or broken the first game, but then we just saw 3-2. She was up a break, looking real promising, being aggressive. I don't know what happened right there. Was it Navarro that picked it up? Did she get tight, choke? It seems to me like she was spraying a lot of forehands, that's for sure.
16 unforced errors on the forehand.
I was commentating the match, and I think what Navarro did was she started stepping in, and she was closing in on the baseline and really dictating the points. And I just think, I think with Coco, the pressure of, she was the #1 now, odds maker. She was supposed to win this tournament after Iga was out. I think that pressure, and I think playing an American player. I can't stress that enough. I don't know how you felt playing other American players, Jimmy Connors.
My brother.
But I just felt more pressure when I had to play American players, and I think Coco felt that.
I can tell you, Coco's first three, opponents was pretty easy. You knew this match was going to be kind of, it was a trickier opponent. Sometimes, you play a match like this and you got to find a way. It's small margins. It was only a 7-point difference in a 6-4, 6-3 match. You change a couple of points. But full credit to Emma. She was the one that held her line on the baseline. She pushed Coco back. And a lot of times in these type of matches, Coco is very resilient. She finds ways to win matches. And she did about 4 times in the Open where she's down a set, she found a way. This is a match, maybe she turns around early in the second set. That's the type of match that all of a sudden gives you a clear shot at winning the title. Also, Coco was only thinking about this match. You don't think about yourself being the favorite. But I go back to her opponent, asked to give her full credit because she played a great match. And Coco needed to play at a higher level.
What was her first serve percentage for the match?
Wasn't good enough.
Does that mean like 50%, 55?
You know what? She had been...
Because she's going bigger, clearly.
She was about 56, 57% for the first 3 matches, but winning a high percentage of the points in the mid-80s. Yesterday, it was around the same percentage, but her winning percentage was in the high 60s. So Emma's court position was a bit of a factor, and then all of a sudden, she hurt her on the second serve return.
Shouldn't she go up to like 70%, back off a little?
You know what? I actually learned this, John, from coaching Andy Murray when he had a low percentage. But he says, if I make 70% of my first serves, but I only win 60% of the first serve points, it's way better that I make 50% of my first serves going big and win 80 to 85% of the points. So there is that fine line.
Sounds like a guy shooting threes in the NBA.
No, there's a fine line that if you spin your serve in.
I didn't say spin it.
Okay, you go three-quarter.
So the thing is, I'm talking about 85, 90%.
So I feel like when you have potentially a big weapon, you should use it. And obviously the first serve percentage needs to get a little bit better, and it will. But I don't like throttling back. I really don't, not when you can hurt players with your serve when it's going in.
Another big weapon Coco always has is her athleticism. She's such a great athlete, especially as the points go longer and longer. Last night, any point that was more than 9-10 shots, all but 3 of them, 16 of 19, favor Navarro. Were you surprised to see that trend change for Coco?
That hardly ever happens for Coco. I would probably say Coco, and then Navarro is probably the second best mover now in the game. She did a great job of staying in points, and so many of the points got into the forehand to forehand. It was closed roof last night, much slower conditions because of the humidity. Balls get a little heavier, and Coco couldn't hit through the court. And then that's where the court position of Emma being on the baseline, Coco being like 6 feet behind the baseline mattered. And then it was like who was going to break the pattern first, and Emma did a better job at that.
Look, she was the most consistent player on the court. I mean, she owns that consistency. She thinks that's, one of her great strengths. And Coco tried to hit through her. She tried to really hurt her with her power, but she absorbed Coco's power so well. And like you said, she's a great athlete. She moved well. She had no holes in her game. She played spectacular tennis, and like you said, we have to give her credit.
She got in her head is what happened. But was there ever a point where you said, figure it out yourself type of thing? When she's sort of laying into it, what do I do?
No, John, I mean...
This isn't the plan.
If you saw me, I thought...
I saw you doing this whole,
you know what? Maybe it's since this pattern that we thought would work isn't working. I'm a guy that instantly thinks after a set, if you don't change sometimes, things might not get better. Exactly. So, but for some reason, she just didn't get into those backhand-to-backhand exchanges or play with a little more shape.
What was plan B or C, just out of curiosity, before we go to the sound bite?
Backhand to backhand,
well, both women talk about the strategy and the emotions of the match. Take a listen.
Yeah, I think we had a game plan going in, and I felt that it wasn't working. So, and I don't always ask for advice on the box, but today was one of those rare moments where I felt like I didn't have solutions, and I don't want to say I didn't have any because I think I'm a capable player of coming up with some, but I think today mentally, I think I was a lot going on, and I felt like I wanted more direction from the box. Yeah, I think it's happened before, and usually I wouldn't say it's happened before with maybe the combination of JC and Brad, but it's happened before in the past where I felt like I needed more direction, and they usually give me something. I felt as today, I don't think we were all in sync, but it's no one's blame except myself. I mean, I'm the player out there. I have to make the decisions for myself on the court.
I don't normally give the other side of the court too much energy. I keep it on my side of the court, but yeah, I guess seeing her kind of frustrated and looking at her box and putting her arms up in the air, it's definitely a little bit of a confidence boost, and yeah, I guess that maybe gave me a little bit of momentum and just some energy that I needed. I really wanted to attack her forehand, and I think she wanted to do the same to me, so we found ourselves in a lot of forehand cross-court rallies, and it was kind of a cat and mouse, like who's going to change the pattern first, which I love matches like that where it feels like it's not just hitting or striking competition. There's strategy involved, and it feels like a chess match or something. So that was really enjoyable for me.
Brad, your response.
Okay. You know, they played a match in the semifinals of the first term of the year in Auckland, and they had a lot of similar rallies, but it was on a hard court. It was on a little quicker court, and Coco made progression on so many of those rallies. Rewatched that match. We had the thought of how things were going to go, especially I watched all of her matches here. Close the roof, slower conditions, match change. And sometimes that you have an idea, a thought how things are going to go, that's why you lace up the sneakers. It didn't go to game plan. And then that's why, you know, she did get a little frustrated. And one thing that's tricky here, the coaching box is further away. And it's hard to hear. Let's say you're at a normal tournament, you could literally be right next to the court. The player can come over. So it is more difficult to communicate with the player and the sound and especially with the roof closed. So, but all
what was
comes
plan B or C, though? Just out of curiosity.
Okay,
We were about to get to that before
Okay.
I was so rudely interrupted
I'm sorry.
by these wonderful sound bites.
So you usually have a plan A. So you discuss what you're going to do.
Right.
Plan B usually happens on the fly, and that's when you're sitting courtside and your player comes over and you can have, you know, the easier communication. You try not to talk about plan B and C before you go in the court. There's too
I'm
many,
surprised about that.
There's too many thoughts in your head.
Sometimes it's not always about strategy. Sometimes it comes down to instinct. And sometimes when the strategy's not working, you go back and you just think about your side of the court. What am I not doing well? And Coco was making too many errors. Coco could have been more consistent. She could have gotten more first serves in. You know, she should have worried about her game instead of patterns and strategy. And I don't know, you're an instinctive
Old
player. Do you
school.
agree?
See, the hell with the analytics.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not a big analytics guy at all. And Coco's greatest strength is her ability to find solutions when she's nowhere near her best. She competes, she's resilient, and she can win matches where, like, you look at the stats, a little bit like Andy Murray, where you look and say, how did he win that match? Because they use their legs, they extend rallies. But sometimes your opponent, you have to give, credit, and I felt like I said, it was 7 points the difference in a 4-3 match. You change a half a dozen of those points. Instead of losing 4-3, you can win 4-3. That's how small the margins are sometimes in a big match.
She beat herself.
I'm not the expert, but I think plan B might have been go to the backhand with some shape. Anybody in the center court saw you doing this. Go to the backhand with some shape.
I was trying to do that, and I was hoping not to get like a coaching warning because I was doing it when she was on the opposite side. You know, it was like, let's get into backhand to backhand exchanges and let's put some shape on the ball.
All right. A couple of those points, you say it was divided by 7. A couple looked like they were lost on emotion, too, as she lost her emotions there, not for a point, but for onwards of a couple of games. My question is, Brad, you heard her. She quickly regrouped. Again, this is a 20-year-old woman. She quickly regrouped in press and said, ultimately, it's on me. But But where will be the challenge in her handling this in a constructive way going forward, knowing she's back on for doubles today, turns around and goes back to the Olympics on clay, then it's the U.S. Open on hard court where she's the defending champ. How does she handle it constructively going forward?
Well, first and foremost, it's been a long grind. She got to Berlin on April 13th. She's been in Europe for 3 months. And now we've gone from, she's going to go from clay to grass, back to clay, and then a quick turnaround in the summer. But the progression, these two right here were two incredible players at 20 years old. But your whole goal at 20 is to continue to build on your game, is to get better, to improve your game. You don't put the pressure on yourself, I need to win here, here, and there. I need to get better. And John talked about, Coco's got to improve her serve. She's got to improve her forehand. But every player will tell you, I've got to build. If you don't build, you fall behind.
I love your defense of your pupil there, and I'm going to nominate here, just look in the camera, I'm going to nominate Brad Gilbert next year for the International Tennis Hall of Fame, along with our other cohort, Darren Cahill, both of whom deserve to be in the International Hall of Fame. So before we go to commercial...
Well, that's very nice of you.
Yes.
You know what? And coaches do get dissed there, and your coach, it bothers me more than anything, is not in the Hall of Fame, Dick Gould. It absolutely bothers me more than anything. There's no person that I can think of that's more deserving of the Hall of Fame than him.
Yeah, the coaching
I'll be there
wing.
next year.
Richard Williams. There's many we could go on. Let's look at the draw as it stands for the win. Chrissy has a match to get out and call Rybakina and
In 5 minutes.
Kalinskaya.
Yeah.
So before that starts,
you run and choose.
we want to get Chris Evert into the bunker. Lulu Sun and Donna Vekic, Jasmine Paolini, Emma Navarro. Only Vekic had won a match at Wimbledon prior to this year of those 4. Isn't that incredible?
I mean, how about Paolini was 4-16, John, in her career in majors before this year.
And she looks pretty darn good out there, I'll tell you.
I mean,
what's happened?
You talk about the schedule. I mean, she's had quite the schedule, and she was runner-up at the French Open, but she still comes over here and is fresh and eager as ever and translated over to the grass courts very well.
Against Navarro, though, Navarro has her numbers. So far, she's 3-0, including wins this year, Doha and Miami.
I think Navarro does everything a little bit better and has more power than Paolini. And, hopefully she'll use the momentum that she had against Coco in playing as well. But she's a big match player, for sure.
The advantage in this is court position. If Navarro will take court position from Paolini.
Paolini will use the crowd, though. The crowd loves it.
By the way, Chris McEnroe told me a very important fact. 3 of the women players left in the tournament have never won a grass court match.
No, at Wimbledon.
At Wimbledon. At Wimbledon.
How about that quirky section of the 4? One's going to get to the final. All 4 of those ladies play with Yonex rackets.
They're the odds.
Rybakina, what an overwhelming favorite she is now. But look at Navarro. Look at Navarro right there at number 2.
Number 2 now.
And Elena Ostapenko. We've seen this before. It was
Danielle.
the French Open, but she's
awesome.
crushing it.
Danielle Collins.
I'm pulling for Danielle Collins.
She's a powerful player. Last year.
I'd like to see that.
No
player. She plays with the
She wants to get on
feistiness.
center court first.
Chrissy, you'll like this. No player moves less in their match than Ostapenko. No, seriously, she like.
How do you
know that?
She stands there, boom.
Steps taken in a match.
Yeah.
I mean, like her opponent, like
She goes
doesn't
big
like,
early.
She goes big and doesn't
Or
like
go
to run
home.
to the defense, but she's efficient with her steps.
Oh, that's my kind of player.
Yeah, you like that?
Why moving?
Yeah, that's how Chris McEnroe plays tennis, too.
See?
I played with her.
Hall of Fame, here we come.